T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight, I have the pleasure of being joined once again by Mr. Ari Flagle to talk all things Boelen's pythons in the wild, captivity, go over some of his research work and more. And many of you have probably heard some of the previous episodes with Ari, and they never disappoint. But before we get into everything that we are going to talk about, as always, USARK. So USARK is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out usark.org for all of the information you need to know about the organization. The website is also where you will find alerts on legislation introduced at either local or national levels, as well as updates on any of those pieces of legislation. usark.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers, and the more people that are behind the cause, the better. And here we are. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in live. Also, thank you to everyone who is watching or listening after the fact. If you are here on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. New podcasts drop every single day of the week from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics from within the reptile industry. So if you are a fan of reptile podcasts, you have come to the right place. We are also available on the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from. You can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. A follow, 5-star review, leave a comment on any of our podcasts. That is all most appreciated. With all of the housekeeping out of the way, let's get Ari on to the show. What's going on, man? Thank you for being with me again here tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. How
Absolutely.
are you guys?
Things are going all right. Just getting ready for the show season. You know, it's picking up, some fun traveling ahead, and a lot of good times.
Yeah. Fun, good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, man, you know, I think this is your third or fourth appearance on one of my shows.
I think so. I think either people are enjoying it, or I'm getting slowly replaced by everybody else.
I think it's the first one.
Or you're running out of people that want to come on.
Hey, I told you that in confidence,
no.
Okay?
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, man, how have things been going recently since we last
It's been good.
talked?
It's been good. It's real hot in Texas right now. So
yeah, I can imagine so. I mean, what are you guys getting kind of on average over there these days?
Oh, we're in the upper 90s and everything, with a little bit of humidity and stuff, so it's pretty gross. But you know, It is what it is.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's a sacrifice you make for nice mild winters. So
yeah, that's the thing. So
yep, absolutely. Well, I mean, shoot, there's definitely a lot to talk about within the Boelen's world, and you know, the kind of the landscape has been changing a lot over the last few years. It really feels like. You know, what are your takes on the current status of just the species in general, both from the captive hobby standpoint, and then kind of how your research is evolving?
Oh, okay. So like, well, the captive point of it, like, we're still like, you know, there's no real recipe, in my opinion, that's, you know, proven to be 100% successful. However, there's been a lot of really great, you know, achievement stuff going on, especially, you know, with Scott, you know, producing. He's been really nailing it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I still think we're still not quite there yet. I mean, he's obviously made some great achievements, and you know, I'm super, you know, a huge congrats goes to him. I talk to him whenever I have a chance and stuff like that. So he's got you know, he's been doing a lot of cool stuff. But so yeah, so I think it's getting there eventually. There certainly are enough animals that are in capable hands now, I think, you know, for you know, the success for the future. Obviously, I mean, that's the goal. to have more successes with captive specimens that we have in groups and things like that too. So,
Yeah.
which has been really nice. And we're seeing we have access to all these young babies that are coming in, that really adapt well to captive husbandry and are, I mean, they're still proving obviously difficult to reproduce, in all honesty, but
Yeah.
there, as far as getting to that point, now it's a lot more easier to get to the reproductive stage because we're having success raising these younger animals up into adulthood, so which is good. So the thing now is just telling people to keep their animals and don't get tired of being discouraged of not succeeding with them. Don't swap them around or not swap them around. Don't send them off to other places because then it's going to take so much more time for the animals to get acclimated back to doing what they're doing. So
yeah, 100%.
That's my opinion on a lot of that stuff. So it's like if you're gonna, Boelens are a long game, animal in my opinion. So you get them and you keep them until they, eventually pass away with you. It's a long-term animal. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it's good to know that that's kind of the mentality that a lot of the keepers are starting to have these days, especially considering, without saying too much, kind of who some of the main market movers were with the Boelens for a period of time.
yeah.
The morals and ethics behind the sales aspect kind of, in my opinion, didn't bode well for long-term success of the species.
I agree. The one thing, it's kind of like a double-edged sword with how the market went up on price for the animals. Obviously, we've
Yeah.
talked, before, and I'm pretty sure people have heard me rant on about, the social media aspect of it being a positive and a negative thing, but a lot of it is now that the market has set these relatively high numbers for these animals, which certainly they deserve. They're
Yeah.
fantastic animals, but all animals deserve to be valued for what they are. But it also kind of put more of a kind of like a red alert on them, I think, in a lot of ways, because now it's kind of it's a very serious plunge for a hobbyist of any sort to financially take that step into working with these animals because their price tag is so high. So it's more of a serious purchase, with long-term goal or long-term project in mind, as opposed to something quickly, you get bored of it and flipping it. It's like you're investing so much money in it.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. I mean, do you think that, and I don't know exactly, but I feel like the prices have kind of corrected down a little bit compared to where they were at the absolute peak? Am I on base?
Yeah, I agree with that. I see, prices. I mean, they're certainly still high,
Yeah, sure.
but it's, it is, when you're in the, animal market aspect of it, it's like supply and demand kind of thing. They're
Yeah.
not easy to acquire. Not many of them are available, and typically when you're purchasing animals with a price tag like that, you're really heavily insured the health of the animal, as it's going to be. It's not like something that quickly comes in with a lower cost associated with it, and it's turned,
Sure.
it's not really given the time to acclimate properly or tested or things like that. But you're seeing that more and more now with the Boelens as well, which is good. So I see, like I said, two sides to the market with Boelens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think would end up being like kind of the ideal place for it to land, and how do you think the balance of the imports compared to eventually when hopefully captive bred animals are more plentiful? How do you think that those two will relate to each other the best?
Well, I see that, they're relatively around the same, you know, um, value, it seems,
Yeah,
from captive, pure, true captive bred, U.S. animals, compared to some of these farm bred animals that are coming in. It's just like I said before, it's becoming more and more difficult to acquire things,
yeah,
just with, new laws and permitting and accessibility and things like that too, morality on a lot of levels as well. It's pretty comparable with stuff. Ultimately, I would love to see the imported animals, dramatically reduced in numbers and captive animals being focused on, because that is the ultimate goal to sustain captive populations. So that's a hopeful future. Fingers
yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, this might not be the most fun kind of question to ponder as a person in the US here, but do you think that the new tariffs, I think it's in 19% in Indonesia, are going to have much of an impact?
Oh,
Obviously, on
certainly.
price, but on the supply that we're getting over here. Do you think that
Yeah,
farmers will try
certainly.
to deal with other countries than the US?
Yeah, I see a lot of that. Just, I mean, it's, regardless, if it's a Boelen's python or, a tortoise or
Yeah,
some kind of lizard or whatnot, a lot of these new tariffs that are being presented, it's money out of a shipment or money that's, that wasn't, figured into an import typically. So you've got, I'm hoping it doesn't, affect some of these, mom and pop kind of companies that have been around forever, when they're bringing in, $100,000 shipments, $50,000 shipments, and then there being, an additional charge associated. I hope that doesn't affect them too negatively. But what we can certainly guarantee on seeing is costs for individual animals is going to be going up,
yeah,
just because, that's how it works. You're going to have to pay more. So it that's just how it is. But yeah, it's a reality. And it's not just affecting like Indonesia. It's affecting all these other countries too. So it's not just Indonesia.
right.
But
Yeah,
I'm glad it landed on the 19 as opposed to like what was it, like 32% I had seen prior that it was floating with.
yeah. I mean, there would have been a number where it would have just killed it all together. It's
Yeah,
like,
it just wouldn't be cost effective to bring anything in, even if you were just doing it for yourself. I don't see how
yeah,
it's going to work.
yeah. So, like, for me, obviously, the majority of what I pay attention to coming out of Indonesia are the scrub pythons, and I feel like I've seen like so many popping up in Japan, Korea, other Asian countries. Is the same thing happening with Boelen's pythons, where some of these other
Yeah.
countries that are closer to Indonesia have an increased demand, and that's just where a lot of them end up going?
Yeah, a lot of the market nowadays with a lot of suppliers and just in the circle that I'm with that I get to see essentially, or the circle I'm around per se. Um, a lot of the U.S. customers, the amounts. I mean, obviously, larger amounts of shipments are going over to Asia, the Middle East, stuff like that too, just because it's less issues to deal with in the U.S. on a lot of that importation. Um, from what I've seen. So a lot of that stuff is just going over there. And plus, there's a lot of money over there in those areas. So they're just,
Yeah,
purchasing really large shipments that are just, they go over there and they never see it over here. So that just, once again, that increases our prices for things that we're going to be trying to purchase here just because it's so hard to get.
yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess then it's kind of a good time for captive breeding to be picking up a little bit,
Yeah, I would. I mean, on a lot of that stuff, I see it too now. I see a lot of people that are like really focusing on a lot of different on like lots of projects right now, which is really exciting because it's alleviating all that wild collecting, stuff as well as imported farm things. It's like we need animals for genetic diversity with our animals, so it's not a bad thing to bring in new bloodline and stuff like that too. But at the same time, we have, ultimately we want to reduce and eradicate the importation of wild caught stuff too. So it's like we
Sure.
want to be able to sustain our captive populations with animals.
Yeah, I'm a little off topic, but that made me think about this question.
Hmm.
So, with the species that you kind of are commonly encountering through all of your, your whole circle that you kind of are dealing with, are there any species that you see that you're like, man, why is nobody taking this up yet as their passion project that are imported on somewhat of a regular basis?
Oh yeah, I see stuff all the time, like just non-CITES things that come in, like snakes and lizards and stuff like that are available that are just like incredible species, and they're just overlooked. I mean, they're $25, $100, $200 animals, but they're just like really specially unique. It's just something different. But unfortunately, like I feel like the industry in a lot of ways just goes for that really heavy hitter kind of thing. It's like, oh, it's got to be a Bolen's python or nothing, or
Right.
when you've got like so many really really cool scrub pythons and some really cool colubrids and things like that too. It's just like it's like almost like a status kind of thing, which is a shame,
Yeah.
with a lot of that. But it's I don't know, there's so many cool species of animals that, you know, so many people could be focusing on as well.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%.
Yeah.
So we were going to do a show a little while back that ended up not working out, but your most recent trip over to Papua New Guinea was definitely a bit of a special one, different than what
Oh, yeah.
you've been doing. So kind of tell us all a little bit about that trip.
Yeah, so that was fantastic. So for the last 15 years, I've been focusing all my stuff on West Papua, where I'm basically out, trying to document things that I'm basically observing and stuff and photograph stuff. And I was contacted by the Port Moresby Nature Park in Papua New Guinea, which is the eastern side of the New Guinea island. And that's like, the typical, when everybody thinks New Guinea, they automatically think PNG. So they contacted me up because they were doing a research project on Goodenough Island, and it was to investigate the prior historical report of an animal or animals that were on the island. So they wanted to go out there and go look, and they were putting together a team, 10 of us, various, skill sets and whatnot, and they wanted me to come on as far as helping out, particularly identifying habitat that would be sustainable for the species, and to kind of answer if it could be there or not. So obviously I was aware of the notation, and I was aware of the reports and everything like that, and I never dreamed that I'd be able to get there, even though it was a goal of mine to get there one of these days. And I eagerly accepted the invitation and flew out there and was out there for about 3 weeks. I spent, just about a week in Papua New Guinea, and then the other 2 weeks I spent actually on the island, surveying with a lot of the locals and stuff like that, investigating the reports and doing a lot of educational stuff there with the locals, and trying to get an idea of what animals were there, and if this snake was actually there. So it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, man. And for anyone who hasn't listened to your Morelia Python radio episode about the trip, I definitely would encourage, after this one, don't leave the show now,
right?
But definitely to check that out. Just before anything else, the island has such a peculiar name. Do you have any idea why it's Goodenough Island?
Yes, I do, and I totally forgot it. And I totally I'm so embarrassed because of it. And it's like on the tip of my tongue right now. I'll remember it as we're in conversation, but it is a very interesting name. The island itself, it's roughly 60 miles off the coast of Papua New Guinea, and it was a stronghold during the war for the Japanese that would come through.
Okay.
So the Japanese and the Australians were fighting there. And they really left a lot of military, military evidence behind, I would say. And we flew in on a little plane and landed on a runway that was there from the war, and it was maintained still. It was pretty awesome. But they find bullet casings and things like that, and there are still ammo stashes on the island, and they one of the local groups that we were with up in the highlands there was talking to us about how they found a bomb they actually detonated 10 years ago or something like that. So there's still a bunch of really crazy stuff there on the island, but the place itself is a very interesting place. It's I don't know if you're aware of the topography of it, but it's essentially, it goes straight up. And you've got two cultural groups, or not really ethnographic groups, but cultural groups, I would say. You've got a coastal group of people, and then you've got a mid-range highland group of people. And there's not many highland people left because a lot of them stay down in the coast. Everybody on the island is taught English, so they speak English, but they also speak two other dialects, and they're both separate from each other. So the coastal group speaks a coastal dialect, and then the highland group speaks another dialect.
Of Indonesian?
They're not Indonesian. No, so they're
okay, what's just whatever.
It's more it's going to be they're going to be not Papua New Guinea, but they're the oceanic, an oceanic ethnicity.
But the language.
The language is specific to the island.
Oh. Okay.
Aside from some of them, I didn't come up across any Pidgin, which is the main dialect on PNG. But
Okay.
aside from English, everybody speaks rather. There's the two different distinct languages from the coastal and the highland group. So
Wow, that's
um,
fascinating.
yeah, it's really cool. The island itself, though, aside from the straight mountainous area, so it's like coastal beach, kind of not like a tropical beach when you think of a beach, but coastal beach, and then the highland area is just like straight up, and then the small terrace levels, and then it goes up even higher. But it has some crazy
Hmm.
folklore to it, and lots of legends with it as well. So it's a really spiritual place.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What's like the highest elevation there?
I had it written down. The area we were at was around, I think we were around 3,500 feet, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
around that range. We weren't all the way up at the top. We weren't given, so it was interesting. So initially we had arranged with a different group to stay with them, and everything was worked out. We were permitted through the government. We were permitted through the organization on the island and all the locals, and we went through the correct channels of how to stay and navigate and all that stuff. And we also had military escort with us as well too, for some of these places we're at. But when we got to the island, the initial group that we had contacted to agree to stay with told us we weren't welcome there, like
Hmm.
as we're on the island, as we arrived.
It's
So
like
we
I
had
came
to
all
go
this
to,
way. Interesting.
yeah, right. So I mean, we were gonna get it done anyways, regardless, even though we told them it was like we're permitted legally. But a lot of that stuff is just like it's tribal law, so it you've got to tread carefully and work it around to make it work. So we contacted another group. Fortunately, somebody in our party had an uncle or somebody that was in a different side of the mountain, and we went to that other side and stayed with them, which was fine. And then on the last few days of the expedition, we had the first tribe come out to try to run us off, and then was jealous that we didn't stay with them, so they tried chasing us off the mountain. It was a big, crazy tribal
Oh,
thing. Yeah, so it happens.
I mean, was
But
that nerve-wracking, or were you kind of used to stuff like that from all of your travels?
I'm pretty used to it. I'm pretty
Yeah.
kind of jaded to it. And we also had we had military guys with us too, so it's not like I was
Fair
worried
enough.
about anything. But still, it's it's just kind of frustrating because it's like we were initially we're there to help, we're there to support the community, pay our way, obviously, take photos and leave footprints. That's it,
Yeah.
and they just at first they were like, no, you can't come here, and then they got jealous and they that we went to another group and they wanted money, and it was just like a big thing. But it all worked out at the end. Everybody was happy. But yeah, it was pretty incredible place. The spirituality aspect of it is really overwhelming just because of how much is circulated around the mountain as like a cultural birthplace, for some of these ethnic groups that live there. Um, and everything is just kind of like, oh well, the mountain won't let us go here, or the mountain doesn't want you to climb here, or things like that. And we have to respect all that stuff while we're
Yeah.
there, because we're on their home turf. So
Sure.
uh, you can't you can't piss them off, otherwise you're going to have big problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty incredible. I heard some really amazing stories of just things there, in the mountains that watch you and give you permission and guide you and stuff like that. The one of the weirdest, I think it was probably the strangest place I've like. I would say probably the weirdest thing about it was, I had as soon as I got on the island, and we got up to the highland elevation where we were going to start, I started having these really crazy dreams. And it was just like vivid dreams every night, at every night.
Hmm.
And that was the one real weird thing I had. And everybody in the group was also having these like crazy dreams. And we'd all talk about it in the morning. So it was really bizarre. And then the locals, they'd overhear us and they said, it's the mountain basically checking you out or making sure you're okay, and then giving you permission to go, which I was like, all right. So but it was pretty awesome. So I plan to go back, with the nature park again, hopefully next year.
Wow.
um yeah, it's on my list. I'm not done over there. So um
Were the dreams that you were all having Similar or just similarly bizarre?
Similarly bizarre.
Okay.
They were just like really incredibly vivid, things I hadn't thought of in 30 years, and just really, I mean, it was just strange scenarios in general. They weren't like nightmares or anything. It was just really intense, like
Yeah.
mental stuff. It was weird. But yeah, it was, everybody was having the same stuff. So it was interesting. And they kept saying it was the mountain spirits and all that stuff. So I've had to deal with the mountain spirits before, so
not, your,
yeah,
not your first rodeo with the
a,
mountain.
a couple of times down the road, you know.
Yeah. Well, we got an assist from Sir Ryan Young, British naval guy James Graham Goodenough.
That's what it is. Thank you, Ryan.
That's a very British name right there.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Because I think the first time you told me about it, I kind of was like, did I hear what I think I had heard? Good.
Yeah, no, we just kept joking when we were there. We're like, well, that's good enough. It's like, it's good enough. So, but yeah, it was a pretty. It'll remain one of the most incredible places I've been to in my life so far. So it's just a really special place.
Yeah.
Very different from what I'm used to.
Well, yeah, and that was gonna be my next question. So, how does the habitat there compare to the habitat you're used to in West Papua?
So obviously it's very mountainous still. It's very slick. It's, heavy overgrowth, undergrowth and overgrowth stuff, just vegetation everywhere. It's like real primitive stuff. The climbing was even worse. It was probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 15. And I've got video I can show you, and I don't know if you're able to upload stuff later on or whatever, but I can give you a clip of just some of the hiking of it. And it's just the mountain goes straight up. And when people say, oh yeah, the mountain goes straight up, I'm like, it really does go straight up. Even the locals are really winded when they go there. And I asked, I was like, you guys, like what's up at the top? And they're like, oh, we don't know. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, why should we go up there? And I'm like, why not? So it was hard for us to find, people that wanted to go or had been there. So, but once we got there, I understood why, because it's just so difficult to navigate. But habitat wise, it's very, very similar to some of the areas. It's definitely, it definitely could sustain the species there. Where I was at was one side. We were on the eastern side of Mount Mandawa. We originally were supposed to be on the western portion, I believe, where we had a better chance, because the area we were at, without us knowing, until as we're, doing this expedition with this team, that we couldn't find any animals. Like, it was completely hunted out, the areas we went to, which was really, really terrifying to think. I mean, even the birds would only come down to a certain height or a certain elevation, so they would, avoid being shot with a slingshot or a rock or something like that. So, but the other side of the island, apparently there's a preserve there. I don't know specifically on, how well of a preserve it is, but it was there to help protect the rock wallabies that were on the island. The area we were at, they were overly hunted out, so I didn't see any of them on the spot we were at. But we were able to find I believe 6 of the 9 known species of snake on the island.
Okay.
So that was still really good. Then there was another just recently described type of highland colubrid that we also saw as well, that had been described like a number of years ago. And I mean, it's pretty recent. So
okay.
Yeah.
What were those species of snakes that you found?
So we had what was it? The only animals we did not find were the green tree pythons, which I know they're there because I was shown photos of them.
Okay.
The green tree pythons and the olive pythons we did not find. Which they said the olive pythons were the most common snake there, but we didn't see one. But we found a type of keelback, a highland keelback. We found a amethystine python or a scrub python. which I think is new. What was the other snake? There was 2 species of Candoya we found.
Okay.
And what was the other one? I'm trying to think. We found a slaty gray type of snake that was in this marsh also.
Cool.
And there was one other snake we found. I cannot remember what it was. It was a small colubrid type snake we found.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's supposed to be olive pythons there, and obviously the green tree pythons that are there too. And then reportedly, there's supposed to be Boelens there, but we did not find them in the amount of time we had in this place we were at.
So then Boelens would be the 9th species?
Potentially, yeah. But I mean, those islands are that area is just a difficult place to access in general, and it's like,
yeah, sure,
tribal politics play a huge role in it, and then just being able to access the environment itself, because it's just a very difficult type of environment to navigate through. It's
yeah, I could imagine.
So there could be some more species that are there. We found some big Latoria, the big white-lipped tree frogs,
Okay.
some big arachnids that were there. Trying to think what else. Saw a lot of birds on certain spots, but not on certain areas too, just because they wouldn't come down. We also went to Ferguson Island too, and I saw hornbills there. And Ferguson has a different topography on it. There's no reports of Boelen being on Ferguson, obviously, but it was only with like a 25-minute little jet boat, essentially, a little dinghy boat over there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Very
cool. The green tree pythons on the island, what is their phenotype?
They're green. They look about average, nothing spectacular from the individual I saw the photo from. I mean, obviously I didn't get to see its tongue or the tip of its tail or anything like that, really. They said that they find them and they eat them because they said they're good for people that have breathing trouble. I don't know. I think they eat them because they ran out of anything else to find on the island, and they're just eating everything they come across, personally.
Yeah, sure.
And they said also the olive python is very delicious. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well.
But, yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't say they eat the scrub python. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
If one of them, you leave.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so the green trees were more like of a southern chondro type of appearance.
Yeah, I would say I'm not a huge green tree python guy, so like I don't know like how the new phenotype, locality, stuff like that really plays a factor in. So it looked to me like just a southern type of animal. It wasn't anything that was like, wow, like different looking. It was just a animal from Goodenough Island.
Sure. But on the topic of different looking,
yes,
as you just previously stated, the animal that I'm going to ask about is that scrub python.
Yeah, that scrub python we found, which was really interesting. As we were up there, I had told people, obviously people knew when we went out there. I'll say it like this. Okay, so when we went out there, one of the first things we did, we start networking with some of the local groups that were there. So we had a base camp down at this little lodge we found. And then we would go to, there was 3 or 4 primary schools that were on the island. And so what we did was we met with the headmaster of each one of those, and we would show up each day to these schools, and we would give like a presentation. We had a poster with pictures and things like that. And we were like, hey, has anybody seen snakes out here? We're looking for animals. What kind of wildlife do we see? And everyone, of course, comes running up, and they're like, oh, I've seen this, I've seen that, I've seen this. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then everybody and their mother said they've seen a Boelen's python. Of course, everybody's seen it. Nobody knows where they're at, but everybody's seen it. And those are the type of people that I really don't pay attention to, because those are the type of people that are just looking for attention or are looking for a handout. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go with this person. I'm going to give him money. He's not going to produce anything.
Right.
Yeah, sure. So, with one of the people that was there, I had talked to, I said, hey, I'm looking for snakes. If you come across a snake, let one of our guys know or bring it to me. We're going to be over, or we're going to be over in this area. So nothing happened, nothing transpired out. And then, we started coming back from being in the mountains for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. and we get back down to our main base camp where we're, charging up everything and checking all our trail cameras and all our stuff and getting all our gear, making sure it's all clean and not, waterlogged and whatnot, because it just torrential drain or rain pour a lot of the time.
Mm.
And this guy comes up to me and he pulls out this scrub python from his it's called a Boelen bag. And it's like a kind of like a knitted bag. A lot of the men wear them too, just to hold their stuff like cigarettes or like a cell phone or something like that. It's kind of like a fanny pack. Pulls out the scrub python and I was just like, whoa. Like initially I was like, first off, oh, okay, great. It's a scrub python. I'm super excited because I'm seeing a native snake here. It's from Goodenough Island.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at it and I'm like, man, this thing looks really different to me. So I took some, basic photos of it, side of the head, top of the head, bottom of the, neck, things like that, the lateral body shots, things like, and then just took some nice photos of it and, didn't think anything of it later. And then I was looking as I was coming back, like when we did a debriefing, when we went back to the nature park, I was looking at the photos and I was like, oh, this looks different. And it has a really beautiful, like orange kind of brown hue to it. It very much gives off a Halmahera scrub python look in the face, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Where it has that, and you know what it looks like because I showed you. You don't have to be all quiet about it. I think you were one of the first people. I was like, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
And but it just looks very different to me. It might not be anything, but it's not what the typical. It looks out of place in my opinion, and I don't know if that's the only scrub python that they see there. So that's the other thing too. So, but it was really cool. So, what we're talking about doing also is when we return back is to get permits to do small collecting and bring some animals back to identify and potentially see if it's different, stuff like that. So
yeah, that would be amazing.
Which would be
so
cool.
The animal that you saw, is it similar to animals that are adjacent on the mainland?
Smaller. It's much smaller. And the only thing that looked similar to me was that kind of Tracy eye head structure. It just looked like a shorter snout, like an elongated head and kind of that shorter snout to it. The eye color was different, had like that golden eye color, golden orange.
Yeah.
I don't remember what color its tongue was. I have photos I haven't looked at on the tongue. And it was overall like a smaller stature animal. I don't know the age on it, obviously, because it was a wild animal. Obviously, it was at least 3 or 4 years old. But there's not a lot, and a lot of people are probably going to be like, well, that's that doesn't mean anything. It could be it could get gigantic or whatever. But the food sourcing out there or availability of things to feed for a large animal wasn't a lot. I mean, we didn't even catch any rodents on our trail cameras when we set them up all through the island. So there was not a lot of big prey that was there.
Okay.
So it's possibly it could be a smaller species, just not really, really large.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. So I was excited to see that. I was just excited to see snakes there, just because I mean they were new to me, just because I'd never been on the island. So I'm seeing animals that are indigenous to the island. So let alone something that potentially could be different,
So I guess then my next question would be, what do you make of that animal being so different, and maybe some of the other species you found being kind of more true to type of what they are? Like, I guess the example of the green tree python kind of looking a lot like a green tree python. The scrub python looked like nothing you've ever seen before. Do you have any kind of theories as to why that could be?
Oh, I mean, it could be just island stuff, I mean, things are always different that are found on islands. They're typically, a lot of times they're smaller or whatever to fill a specific niche or something like that. It could have just been an individual animal too. I don't know. I didn't see anything else. It'd be nice to see if there were a couple animals to compare to. Also, but I mean, there's not a lot of. The other thing about Goodenough is there's not a lot of data on the island as far as wildlife. There's historical reports of certain things found in there, like the rock wallabies and various birds and things like that, and things that you would speculate to be found there. Like Candoya. Obviously, a large snake that's going to be there. The olive pythons or something like that too, but you don't really know. That's the thing. So it's like, they could be unique, but they could also be just something normal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're all like that animal, they're definitely not something normal.
Yeah, I know, because I could tell right away when I sent it to you. You were like, that's a little different.
Yeah, 100%. No, that was a crazy one to see. I mean, I've had a few of those moments of seeing like a picture of a scrub python in the wild and being like, huh? What the heck is that? And that was definitely one of them. But this is an interesting comment from Ryan that he examined a good enough scrub python and it was at least 9 to 10 feet long. So
Huh?
do you see the comment?
No, I can't see.
Oh, okay. So Ryan said that we examined a Goodenough Island scrub head in a museum, and it was from at least a 9 to 10 foot long specimen.
Very cool.
So,
which museum was it, Ryan?
We'll wait to see Ryan's response. What is the radius of the island in like miles? Like, how large is this island?
The island itself is like a basically circular island. I believe it's like 30 to 40 miles across.
Like diameter?
Okay. Yeah, it's not a huge island. It's but I mean it's substantial, obviously, when you're on an island. But sure. Yeah, it's not a really large island. And like I said, it's around 60 miles off the coast of Port Moresby, I believe it is, give or take.
But not a tiny island either.
No, it's not tiny. I mean, no, but it's not a really large place. So
okay, it was the Bishop Museum.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna contact Bishop. Thank you, Ryan.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I guess I assume you guys only were able to hit a certain particular bit of the habitat throughout the excursion, right?
Yeah. So we got ourselves once. We stayed, I think it was 2 or 3 days down at our main base camp when we established like some stuff with the different schools, like I was talking about earlier. So then after that point, then we went up to the village where we were supposed to be at. And then we were there for the remainder of time. And then just being, the accessibility and the safety going up and down, back and forth was, one of our biggest things. So,
yeah, sure.
When I would, my main part there was to help identify suitable habitat. And the areas I was looking at, like I said, they certainly could sustain, a large constrictor, or they certainly could sustain, or I take that back, because the diet, the prey items was the only thing I was having difficulty really cracking down on, because we weren't pulling stuff from our trail cams. But as far as like vegetation, exposure, the flora that was there, that certainly would be conducive to Boelen's habitat, in my opinion, from various habitats I've seen in West Papua. But the only thing that was obviously the issue was I was having trouble finding prey source, and I was even examining like cultural stuff that they had there to see if there was any feathers on things that I could determine, if there are birds around here, or if there's any like hides of any mammals or marsupials. We did see couscous. We saw one couscous that was there.
Okay.
So there are couscous there. I don't know what the abundance of them would be. So they certainly would be able to feed, a medium to large size python, but I don't know how frequently.
Yeah.
Because everything there, I mean, they ate the couscous when they saw it. So, I mean, everything they see, they're snagging. That's why I really wanted to focus on the other side of the island where that conservation area was in place. And see potentially if there were some pockets up in the mountains that, were sustaining things that were, basically not having to deal with any kind of predatory stuff or human, interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that potentially going to be the target of the next trip?
Yeah, that's the goal, to get to the other side. We still have, I still have locals that are out there right now still surveying, actually.
Okay.
I've been in contact with them back and forth, and they're still working with us and the nature park, just to keep moving around and looking for things to find out if there's anything else in those areas. And I'm like, go to the other side, go to the other side of the mountain. That's where I want to see what's going on. So that's the goal, to get back over there and then go to that other side, to establish a camp and then just start working out over there.
Okay. So prior to the trip, did you have any sort of say in the location that you guys chose to survey, or was it kind of like, this is where we're going, Boelen's habitat, find it here? Do you have an idea ahead
That
of
was
time?
kind of like what it was. We had the most, so like I said, my goal or my focus there was to identify habitat for the animal and to be there as a species kind of expert to kind of say, okay, this is what we're looking for. This is kind of the things we need to focus on. But they had already prior arranged all the other stuff with the other groups that we were going to stay at. And however, like I said, it had changed, so we had to switch off to another side. So but then once, it's always like, it's always a jealousy thing with stuff like that when you're dealing with groups like that, because it's like, why are you paying them when you could pay us, kind of thing. But it didn't work out that way. So they want us to come back. The first group the first group that tried to chase us away with machetes and spears wants us to come back next time and stay with them, because they're jealous that we stayed with the other group. So
Nice. I mean, they gave you that nice warm welcome, so it was kind of mean of you to do like
it
that.
was entertaining for sure. I mean, I'd never seen it was funny because like I'm like a real observant person. I usually go sit around and just kind of watch people, and I was sitting
Mhm.
out having some coffee, as it was getting dark, and I was watching our military guys. We had one, two, three, four military guys with us. And I got a funny story for those guys too. And I was watching them string up these ropes around the village, and it had bells on, like noise, like not bells, but it was the same effect as like a trip line they were setting up with like
Mm.
pieces of bamboo, so you could hear it clanking. And I was wondering what they were doing. And then in the morning, I realized what they did was they had known that the other tribe or the other village was wanting to sneak into the camp at night. So what they did was they had watch posts set up, and they set up a trip line, or like a noise making line, I guess you want to call that, or something, around the whole village that we were at. Just in case they snuck in the middle of the night, they'd hear them crossing the lines and clanking the bamboo so they could get up and deal with it. But
Wow.
yeah, we woke up in the morning and the kids told us that the kids came running up and they said that the village that was angry at us had two separate parties. One party was coming up from the valley, and the other party was working its way secretly behind our village to come up behind us.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it was fun.
Nice. I mean, how did they acquire that intel?
Oh, so the kids are like always running around in the jungle and stuff like that. So the
Oh,
kids
okay.
were running around and they caught wind of it and saw it and they just came running, running up the mountain. Hey, we got some information. We got information. So we just kind of sat there and waited for them to walk up. When they did, we finally kind of addressed the whole, elephant in the room kind of thing.
And did they come up with a vengeance, or did they want to talk first before they
Oh
acted?
yeah,
Like,
they came up. Well, they came up with a vengeance. They had, they were in traditional attire, which was interesting because I've never been on an island before with like ceremonial kind of outfits and stuff like that. So it was like these
hmm.
big. They had intertwined ferns on as bands on their heads, and then they had these big leaves that were covering over their faces that would fan out, and they had a lot of like vegetation wrapped up on them and everything like that to kind of adorn their body. And then they had big machetes. And then what was it? A big machete and a big stick. So there was no bow and arrows on the island. They don't use bow and arrows.
Okay.
So when they came up initially, we had our military guys at the front entrance of where the village was, and he had to he disarmed them with his double barrel shotgun. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I would take the shotgun over the machete in that fight.
Yeah, yeah.
First.
So he got all their. So they came up walking, and then another guy that was with us came up holding like this huge pile of machetes and knives and stuff, and they made him put it underneath this table while they addressed what their grievances were while we sat there and just listened. So
Jeez.
yeah, it was cool though because they each one of the people, there was 10 people in the group that were angry at us that were standing there. So each person, they were very polite when they were doing this too. So each person
Okay.
would step forward and address himself and tell him like what his name was, who his father was, where they're from, and then what their problem is. And then they would step back, and then the next person would come out and do the same thing. And then it was our turn, and then we would do that and it would go back and forth, and then we kind of reached an agreement. So
Hmm. So, I mean, one by one, did they step up and have like a different grievance, or were they all kind of saying the same thing?
They were all saying around the same thing, but it was, it was worded differently, but it was for the most part, it was all the same. Like, why are you paying them, not us, kind of thing, but, some of it was addressed like, a little fancier or a little angrier or something like that,
Yeah. Huh.
It was cool.
So what was the story about your military friends?
Oh yeah. So when we landed, there was a pickup truck that was on this airport's like little runway, and we've got like there's all these like all the villages come down to see who's coming to land, because they don't know who's coming, they don't know if they're bringing food, this and that.
Yeah.
We've got this little tiny 7-seater plane lands us down, and the pilot drops us off. He's like, "All right, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye." And he's like, "You just take off," and we're just like, "All right, cool." So I'm standing there with all my gear, and I'm just like looking at everybody, and they're just like stone faced, like looking at us. And I look to the left, and there's a pickup truck, and there's this guy who's probably, I don't know, maybe 4 feet tall, and he's just built like a little refrigerator, like he's like stocky, and he's got a military jacket on, flip flops, and he's got this double barreled shotgun in his hand. He's got this mean face. And I'm just like, I look at him, and I kind of nod, and he kind of looks at me and doesn't say anything. And I'm watching him the whole time. And we get to our base camp area, at this kind of like a little lodge kind of thing. And he goes and sits down, and I guess he's one of our chaperones. He's one of our military guys. So I walk up to him, and I see him and the other 3 military guys sitting down chewing betel nut. And everybody goes and puts their stuff in like their this like room area, basically, where it was the safest place, everything. So I just kind of dropped my bag, and I walked up to the military guys and that guy, and I asked them if I could have some betel nut. And they kind of looked at me, because I guess foreigners don't chew betel nut. So I chew betel nut when I'm in West Papua with the locals. So I grabbed a handful of it, I started chewing it, and they all started getting these big old smiles, right? And so then they were like all patting me on the back and, giving me the pound and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there chewing betel nut with them and shooting the shit with them. And turns out his name is Nimrod. And I was like, and he told me his name with the straightest face I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't about to question it. And I'm like, really? Is there a Nimrod? And he's like, yeah. Well, Nimrod is a badass.
Nimrod, I'm dumbass.
Yeah. And Nimrod only has one speed, and it is fast. And he does not mess around. So he took us out on his boat, and it was just like, oh my God, he had like this speedboat. We were just hanging on for dear life. He's running up and down the mountain, just chambering that shotgun left and right, left and right. And we started becoming friends through the whole time. And we were sitting down, and when that other tribe came up to us, and was, they're yelling and all this and stuff, he was the first person to deal with them. And I was like, okay, cool. No worries. We got Nimrod on our side. We're good. And he was sitting down with me having coffee, watching the people talk. And he looks over to me. He goes, "You scared?" And I said, "No." I go, "No, why?" And he goes, "Don't worry." And I said, "I'm not worried." He goes, "I'll kill them all." And he walks away and goes down the hill. And I was like, all right. So it was good to have Nimrod. He by the end of the trip, he was like carrying my bags. He was hanging out with me. He was a cool dude. So I would never mess with Nimrod, because he's killed people before.
I don't doubt it. Oh,
Yeah.
He needs like a Netflix series or something like that.
Yeah, he was no joke. That guy was no joke. And I'm like, what do you do? He's like, oh, I'm the police also here. And he's like, those people. He's like, when you guys leave, he's like, I'm going to deal with those people. I'm like, what are you going to mean? What do you mean? He goes, I'm going to punish them for wasting our time and abusing us by saying that we're thieves or something like that. And I was like, no, leave it alone. He goes, no. He goes, I'm going to beat them all up after you guys leave. And I was like, no, don't do that, man, please. I was like, I want to come back. He's like, no, I'm just joking with you. And he just walks off. He was a trip.
So I guess.
Yeah.
You said Nimrod was about 4 feet tall.
Yeah, he's about a little over 4 feet. He came up to like my neck, I'd say.
And is that normal?
Oh no, he was a short ass dude.
That's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, he was a little guy. He was a little guy.
How
Yeah,
many
most everybody
four-footers-
there is like around 5'5", and they've got big old beer belly or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, the odds of the one dude who is that short having this personality is pretty incredible.
Yeah, he was pretty awesome. There was another guy too that was with us. That was also like super casual when these people were, jumping around and yelling and all this stuff. And apparently, he's very respected for obvious reasons because they told me he's killed 9 people in the military on the island before. And he was one of our chaperones also, so we were in good company, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, you got that guy, you got Nimrod. You're in good shape.
Nimrod's awesome. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I look forward to seeing him again when I go back.
Yeah, I could imagine that's reason enough to go all the way back.
Oh yeah. We by the end of the thing we were eating like sardines out of a bucket together and all sorts of weird shit.
Nice.
Chewing on betel nut and stuff like that. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, so for the listeners who are unaware, and by listeners I mean me, what is betel nut?
Okay, so betel nut is it's a seed, or it's a nut from the tree, and you chew it and you mix it with a lime and another additive, and it's supposed to give you euphoric feeling.
Okay.
But it gives you a lot of energy also. But the really gross thing about it is it's super bitter, and it also stains your teeth red. It basically the way it works is you break the husk open of the nut itself, and you chew the inside of the husk, and then you dip this kind of like stick. I forget, each place has a different name for it. It looks like a little piece of asparagus actually.
Okay.
And you dip that in a bag of really, really fine lime. And basically the lime, when you chew it with everything, opens up small little cuts in your mouth. And I mean, obviously you can't feel it. And that's where the combination of all of that together gives you that euphoric feel and everything. So you're just constantly like spitting like red, like tobacco everywhere. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's really pleasant stuff. Yeah. So
interesting. And these guys were just like, they were taken aback by the notion of a white guy chewing betel nut.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't happen, let alone white guys going to the island, but let alone one that's sitting there chewing betel nut with them too. And they all grow it because it's like such a huge commodity. Like it's a trade and barter system with that stuff also. And it's like having a cigarette with somebody or having coffee with somebody. Whenever you walk up to somebody and have a conversation, you offer them some betel nut or something like that. And it's sold in the markets everywhere. It's super cheap, but everybody uses it. Even kids. I've seen kids like 5 or 6 years old chewing it.
Damn.
So yeah, it's a cultural thing there. So
wow.
But it's all over It's all over like some parts of Indonesia and then on New Guinea.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Well, we are right at about the hour mark of the show, so we're going to cut to our commercial break real quick. But stick around, everybody. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
One of the biggest growths we have in the reptile industry today are the rare species of reptiles that aren't worked with. That's right. That's why I went ahead and partnered up again with Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. Brian works with species such as kahua geckos, gargoyle geckos, all species of tree monitors. He works with Abronia and many other cool species geckos that you can check out all on his website. Head over to sundownreptiles.com, see what he has available. Brian's one of the best doing it in the reptile industry today. He's been on the show multiple times, so make sure you check out all of Brian Susan's episodes on Trap Talk Reptile Network. But more importantly, for the highest quality of captive bred reptiles, make sure you head over to sundownreptiles.com and make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you again, Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, it's Gary Scavino over at gs.reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cheers. Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and plenty other arboreal snakes have been quite the popularity here at the Trap Talk Reptile Network, which brings me to today's sponsor, the Reptile Perch. Head over to the reptileperch.com and Reptile Perch on Instagram. See what type of design PVC perch is best for your arboreal reptile. But first and foremost, I would also check out David Brom's Green Tree Python availability on the website. And you can also check out his Instagram just to stay current on any projects or any productions that he posts. Thank you so much, David Broms, for your ongoing support. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the 2025 season. When you think about building a good community and being a leader of that community, nobody comes to mind better than Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. That's right. Make sure you head over to TX Chondros on Instagram and also head over to Mark's website. See what he has available Green Tree Python wise and be ready for quite the 2025 Green Tree Python breeding season out of Mark Hager. He's a veteran in the Green Tree Python game, one of the best and nicest breeders in the Green Tree Python game. He's been putting on the whole state of Texas for as long as I've known him. So if you want to see all the amazing other chondro keepers out of the state of Texas, another good reason to go follow Mark Hager over at TX Chondros on Instagram. And again, head over to his website, texaschondros.com. You can find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much, Mark Hager, for supporting the trap. Cheers. Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. You know, longevity is one of the biggest things I strive for when it comes to thinking about being a part of the reptile industry. That's why I'm very proud about today's sponsor, Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. 40 plus years, full-time reptile keeper, enthusiast. This guy, you can catch all his amazing ball python projects on MORPH Market. So make sure you head over to MORPH Market, and that's Mark Bailey Reptiles on MORPH Market. See what he has available currently. And I gotta tell you one thing, he's one of the biggest and most respected ball python breeders we have today in the ball python game. So shout out to Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. Thank you for all the support. And again, make sure you head over to his account on MORPH Market, see what he has available. Thank you so much, Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. If you want to be organized, if you want to be cutting edge in the ball python game, then you don't want to miss this. Shout out to today's sponsor, and that's Clutch, #1 ball python organization app in the game. No better place to start off than by using this app. Clutch is an organization app that helps you organize all your ball python projects. It also helps your peers and your fellow community members look at what you possibly have coming for the upcoming ball python season, what you have currently available on MORPH Market. It's so awesome to be ahead of the game by using organization app like Clutch. Thank you so much, the entire Clutch team, amazing team over at Clutch. If I were you, I would head over to Clutch's Instagram account, and I would also head over to their website, try it out, see how it works for you. But especially if you're just now coming into this, before you build your reptile collection, I would do it organized, and I would do it with Clutch. Thank you, Clutch, for being so amazing. Excited to hear what Clutch has to bring in the near future. Cheers.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We are back. So, actually, before we get to this, though, there was a question in the chat earlier that I didn't want to miss. Do you have any experience with bird snakes? I think that Tim is asking about Phrynonax.
I do not. However, they are very cool snakes. I just haven't had the opportunity to really work with them.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, they are definitely very, very unique, very strange colubrid, but in a really amazing way.
That's another example of like kind of what we were talking about earlier, another snake that I feel like is overlooked a lot of ways.
Yeah, 100%.
And needs some attention for sure.
Yeah, definitely. They're I mean, I think it's, one of the lucky species where a few people now are really focused on them, but for sure, definitely nowhere near the recognition they deserve. So,
correct.
During the commercial break, Ari sent me this video here. So I
can't believe I found it.
So what is going on here?
This is walking up Mandawa Mountain.
Wow.
You'll see the elevation, like the height. Yeah. That's in cloud cover too. So that's about like 5,500 feet, I think. Wow.
And you're just straight down on either side there, huh?
Yeah, straight down. And it's slick. It's like, and the one thing too, it's like, it's not an area that's traveled a lot. So there's not a trail really to follow. So it's like we're going in and we're hacking as it's going. So it's just like, it's one thing going up, but going down is absolutely terrifying because like slick rock and just, you're done if you go down. You're just like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing that I think a lot of people who don't herp or hike on a regular basis don't understand is that going up is not the hard part.
No, going
Like
down a lot of
if you
times.
could
Yeah.
if you could go up both ways, you're doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That would be best case scenario. Yeah,
Exactly.
earlier when you're talking about, why Pete saying that the locals don't go to the top of the mountain. It's like, why don't you go up there? Well, they probably want to get down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what for? That's what they told me. And I'm like, why not? To go see what's up there. There's supposedly, they were telling me there was, well, on one of the things too, when we were in communications with one of the groups, they said there was a big cave up there that had a big snake in it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go check it out. But we couldn't go up there if we wore any color red on us because it's prone to attack for the color red. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll make sure I don't have any red on. Let's go. And then they wouldn't let us go and all that stuff. So,
Oh, that's a shame.
yeah.
Did you have like a route in mind on how to even get there in the first place, or was it kind of like, let's just kind of go and see what happens?
Well, we had asked okay, so when we initially came in, like I said, we were supposed to be with another group, but they decided no, so we had to find, somebody's grandfather or somebody's father knew somebody's grandfather, something like that, and
Yeah.
we found a place that was like, yeah, come visit us. We'll take you up there. And so they had been checking out like paths for us to go up or ways to go up.
Okay.
So they had the idea. It's like, hey, we need to get up to this height. We want to go up as high as we can go up, or you'll let us go up. One of the guys, whatchamacallit, I went up to a certain height and then I was just like, I'm done. I was like, I'm not going up any higher. It's like, this is, too much. It's just not safe. Sometimes you just got to know when to stop. And, and that's a tough thing for people to understand. But, and one of the guys had like a bunch of diarrhea, and the locals were like, hey, you've got to leave. You got to go down because the spirits are telling you that you're not welcome to go to the top.
Oh,
So he had to go down. So it's like, on a
wow.
lot of that. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when you're dealing with like tribal law and tribal belief, it's a whole other world.
Sure.
Really, realistically it is. So it's like you have got to respect those, those beliefs, no matter how outlandish you think they are.
Yeah.
That's their life. That's what they're believing in. So it's
Sure.
like, they were telling me that like, if you're walking and you feel something, pick at your ankle, it's one of the dwarves that's at the top that is there to protect the mountain. And you can see them in the corner of your eye if they're behind a rock or something like that. And I was just like, okay, I'll keep my eye open. It's like, here we go. So there was like, I mean, the spiritual belief of that place is insane. It was absolutely insane. I think my favorite story was, there's always a snake story that's always like why I want to believe that Boelens are there, because it's like, where would this idea come from?
Sure.
And it was because I'd asked them, because there was a snake tribe, a snake village. They said they were part of the snake people or whatever. So I was like, all right, let's talk to them. And they said that, their creation story was that there was a woman that gave birth to a brother and a sister, and the sister was normal, but the brother was the body of a snake, and the mother wouldn't allow the sister to see her brother. The mother wouldn't. So one day the sister snuck up into the mountain and wanted to go see the brother, and she saw the brother, and when the brother saw the sister, he was terrified, and he left the island to the furthest island he could get to, and he brought like all the other animals with him, like birds and other reptiles and things like that. It was really interesting that it would work like that, because I know another kind of story in West Papua similar with another tribe there that in references Boelens pythons, and they're talking about a woman giving birth to two eggs. They said that she gives birth to two eggs, and in the eggs there's a man and a woman kind of scenario.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, but yeah, that's a great point of like where, if it was some of these stories that, give you that kind of inclination, how else would they have come up with it if it wasn't for the fact that the animals were there?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they already said that, there was big olive pythons and stuff like that. And, so there was a large snake, but like back to the original, when I was talking earlier about how, like, when we were networking, when we had all these people coming up and they're like, oh, I've seen that, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I generally don't open up my, you know, questioning with people by showing photos. I usually ask them, like, what animals they're
Yeah.
used to seeing here, and then they'll kind of go into that. And then I lead into certain things, or I brought like pictures with me, like, you know, on my phone of, like, you know, I had a reticulated python, I had an elephant, I had a giraffe, I had a crocodile, I had a Boelen's python, and then I had a green tree python. You know, knowing that the green tree python was there, the saltwater crocodiles, the porosus were there in the mangroves and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, I know that snake. I know that. I don't know that. What is that? A gorilla? I've never seen one of those before. You know, stuff like that. So, but
Is
we're
that Nimrod?
yeah, right. Yeah, it's Nimrod, all just hunched over. But one of the things was, when when we were all talking to the locals about, like, you know, what they see, we're here looking for this animal, you know, we're here to we want to help you conserve this animal on the island, so that way your generations can share this and be proud
Yeah.
that this is from Goodenough, that comes from you because it's part of your heritage, kind of thing, you know. There was a couple people that I would cue in on that I saw on the outskirts of the crowds of people saying that they've seen it. And I remember walking up to the guy and I was like, "Oh, hi, you know, I introduced myself. My name's Ari. It's nice to meet you. I saw you over here. You know, are you from here?" And he's like, "Yeah, I live here. You know, I live over there." And he goes, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, we're here looking for snakes." And he looks at me and he goes, "I know that snake." And I said, "Oh, yeah?" I was like, "How do you know that snake?" He goes, "Oh, well, we see that snake in the early mornings come out and sit under the sun outside of the edge of our gardens." And I was like, "Oh, yeah?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "And then they disappear the rest of the day." And he goes, "They taste good also, but they're not oftenly seen." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool."
Hmm.
So I would get like little bits and pieces from people of certain things that were very Bolen's behavior related,
Yeah.
or something different related than the typical, you know, olive python or green tree python or something like that. And those are the people that I was kind of talking to more and more or less. So I think it's a very good possibility the snake could be there,
Hmm.
or if anything was there,
Right. Yeah.
just because of how much the island is, you know, been hunted out and things like that. I
Sure.
would love to believe it's still there, or was, you know, it's like, but you know, I just can hope that there's a little spot maybe that those animals found some kind of safety, or
Yeah.
something that was, you know, too difficult to access, or I don't know. I'm just hoping, you know, but
Sure.
it could be there. It very well could be.
Definitely. So aside from trying to target that preserve area, do you have any new strategies or I guess enhanced strategies you're going to implement for your next trip over there that you know kind of
I'm just going to do the same thing essentially. You know, networking is so powerful. Obviously, it's their homes. They can navigate much faster and much more
yeah,
efficiently than I can, or anybody else that's on the team that comes there. So, you know,
sure.
continuing it, but doing what we did on the opposite side of the island where we initially wanted to go. You know, and then, you know, establish a good base camp again for some locals to set up cameras,
Hmm.
and, you know, and just work with the communities. That's what we're trying to encourage, you know, the working of the communities to kind of help us find things out. And then I'm going to also do some work in on the P&G side too, with the nature park as well, because
Okay.
we found some new records at the museum there when we were there, as well as some locals that were telling us some areas where Bolins have not been recorded, how on the mainland that could be new areas to observe them at. So I'm going to do some stuff over there also.
Wow, that would be so
Yeah.
cool.
So and that'll be next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you do a longer trip or just split your time more 50-50 between the mainland and the
It
island?
it depends on what's available. Initially, you know, if I can have time on the island again, then I'll do it. Like it. I mean, to realistically do it right, it's one or the other. You've got to do it. Going out and trying to do mainland and then good enough, it's just not. It's not
Yeah,
feasible. I'd be wasting time. You know, I'd be stressed
sure.
trying to do this, trying to do that. You know, I always tell people, like, whenever I travel, I always try to have one goal. and that's the goal I try to accomplish. And if I finish that goal first, then it leaves room for other things for me to observe or go search for, things like that. So
Yeah.
so if it'll either be Goodenough or it'll be the mainland again, but I'll be back to both those places eventually.
Okay. Very cool. Lisa has a good question here in the comments. What is your sense of PNG opening up to trade, whether to the private sector or possibly to zoos?
I don't know. I believe historically they did export things. However, PNG is a different world. Obviously, Boelen's pythons are hugely protected on the eastern portion of the island. I mean, a lot of people know they have like endangered protective status, like birds of paradise, things like that. So being able to export, that animal as an example, it would have to be a zoo to zoo kind of a scenario. But I mean, who knows what the future holds? Things like that. I mean, there are some incredible animals that are, I mean, New Guinea itself is just an incredible place. I mean, to be able to say we know what's there, we have no idea. I mean, we only have we hold a pinprick basically of what fauna and flora is there, to be even able to, understand. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, that would be super cool if that could happen sometime in the future. I'd love to get my hands on some scrub pythons from PNG.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it'd be cool if they opened up. I don't know. I don't really know how that would go. I'd hate to see what the tariff is for that one.
It'll be a great tariff, a beautiful tariff. I said, wow, PNG, you're exporting. Biggest tariff I've ever thought of in my entire life.
You did it first, not me.
I had no choice.
I know the people, the great people, the greatest, probably the greatest people ever.
Kind of hard to deal with. They said, I said, I want your Boelen's pythons, and they said no. I said, you don't tell me no. 70% tariff on you. They'll learn. You're fake news. You're canceled. Anyway, so considering now that you're doing all this work over there, obviously it's not that it's going to go away, but how is your approach to your work on West Papua going to be?
I like continuing my stuff. I have not been back this year to West Papua. They were having a lot of political and tribal problems, so it was not a safe time to be there. So I did not go just because I didn't want to risk it. I've been in there.
Yeah,
I've been there when there's been some real sketchy stuff and issues, and I just, it's just not worth it because I don't want to have to be stressed out while I'm there. I want to be able to focus on what I'm trying to do and everything like that. So, but I'll be back next year, obviously, because things should calm down by then, and just continue. Just continue wandering around in the mountains and, seeing observations and things like that, and taking photos and sharing to people what I'm finding and what I see and anything that seems peculiar or beneficial to healthy animals. That's what I want to do,
Sure. So, the last time we had a Boelen specific podcast, we talked about how you found your first male.
Yeah.
Are there any more firsts that you still need to experience with Boelens? I guess
I would love to. I've got so many firsts. I'd love to be able to walk on. I've got my friends that are out there that help me out. They've sent me some really incredible photos of breeding times. I've been there for breeding season. I haven't come up on an animal breeding. That would be very cool to see a bunch of Boelens breeding. I'd like to be able to see an albino. No, I'm just joking. I don't know.
Okay.
Like I look at it as I'm not there for a first. I'm there just to experience whatever I'm fortunate enough to see,
Yeah, 100%.
And that's just the rewarding part. Like I don't need to have a first encounter. I was able to see babies hatching, which was it was absolutely incredible. And I wasn't asking to see that. It just happened in perfect timing. So it's like anytime I see them, it's a first for me,
Sure. 100%. We got a little comment from MJ saying he can't wait to see you in a few weeks, and that he told me that I'm allowed to come, which I'm very, I know it's quite the honor because I actually didn't know.
Bless you.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. No, but I'm stoked for September as well, man. It's going to be,
it'll be fun. It'll be nice to see you guys. And I haven't been to a reptile show in forever. Ryu's the one who usually goes, and I usually hang back and stuff, but it'll be nice. It'll be fun. Be looking forward to it.
Absolutely. The Dallas Reptile Show the show itself is cool, but more just the people who are there for it, everyone who comes in
Oh
from
yeah.
around the country, and it's so much fun. The weather's great at that point in time, and everyone just stoked for the weekend. So it's always
Totally.
Absolutely. So is there a time of year you have not been over to West Papua in yet?
I think I've been there every time of the year, actually, now that I think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Or no, I take that back. No, I was there for December. I got stuck there. November, October. I don't think I've been there for January. No, I was there January. Yeah, I think I've been there every month. I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Cool. What's your favorite?
I really like end of November because the females are typically full of eggs.
Okay.
And they're all, either dropping eggs or starting to get ready to, depending on how early they or how late they bred, or sitting on eggs. And it's just cool. I love seeing that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I could only imagine. Yeah. Stumbling upon it.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Amazing, man. That's awesome. So, I mean, at this point, we're kind of winding down the conversation. We know we're cutting it a little short tonight, but for the future of Boelen's Python conservation, what are, aside from just continuing to do your work, are there any directions that you're really, passionate about going in, or certain projects that?
I'm just like fascinated with, my research has totally, at first it was just kind of like I was going out trying to collect all the information I could possibly gather, which is awesome, but like it's really kind of focused me into this nesting ecology and behavior. I'm just fascinated with it. I just think it's so cool.
Yeah.
And for the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years now, I've been really focusing a lot on that. But I don't know. I think for conservation wise, I think what we need to really do is we really need to come together as a community, or the individuals or groups that are working with particular species. We need to really work together.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all run a successful business. We can all make money, but we really, bottom line, this is about the animals.
Sure.
We're trying to do them better and have a great time working with them. So it's like, if we can come together and, continue sharing observation, continue sharing ideas or what's worked, what hasn't, that's how we're going to basically, mature into, better, keepers and benefit the animals, where we're saying, okay, I'm going to have 4 females that are going to be gravid this year, and that'll reduce any kind of importation for animals coming in, because we'll be working with captive bred animals. With the ultimate goal for conservation is to be able to sustain captive populations, so we just need to come together as colleagues, people that love what we're doing, and leave the egos at the door and just kind of say, hey man, like, let's figure this out. We're getting close. We're getting real close. There's a lot of really competent people that have animals. And it's a matter of time before we start getting to a point where it becomes more of something to suspect, that we're going to have success. But we just need to come together more. That's the thing where, there's still a lot of egos and stuff like that out there with anything, but we just need to check that stuff and move forward.
100%.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting question. I think I may know the answer, but it's a good topic. Is there a way for the community to raise money to secure bull and high habitat in New Guinea for conservation?
No.
Okay. That's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah. No. The thing with that is it's a government thing, but it is also a tribal thing. So it's like, you could go out with $100,000 and buy half of a side of a mountain that has, 30 animals living on it. But you're going to have to deal with, the people that live there. And this is what happens. This is what they do. This is what doesn't work. And it's just, it would be a difficult thing to do. It's not impossible, but it could be, a very difficult thing to do. I would say, gosh, it'd be tough. It'd be really tough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
The better option for it, in my opinion, would be, like I said, to be able to have sustainable populations in captive setting, whether it's zoos, privates, or whatnot, and then be able to just kind of leave the wild on its own and have a conservation area as a whole for all sorts of West Papuan fauna that would encompass that as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Like a foundation or something.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something that would be really cool to see take
Yeah.
place in the future. Definitely a good long-term goal. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, man. I know that you are on a bit of a time crunch here.
Well,
But
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. This was awesome to get to talk to you again. For anyone who wants to keep up with everything that you're doing, where can they find you and how can they support you?
I've got my website is projectblackpython.org. I've got a really cool Facebook group called the Boelen's Python Somalia Boeleni group. And I am on Instagram, and I can never remember what my Instagram name is, so I'm going to need your help on that, Stephen.
I think it's Boelen's Python Research _2019.
That's the one. Yeah, I've got another one on there that I got kicked out of, so the 2019 one is the right one.
Yeah, we got to talk about it because that's a terrible handle. But
I know. I wish I could. I was at a moment of weakness, you know.
Back in 2019, man.
I know, right? 2019. I'd like to change it if I could. If anybody can help me with that.
Yep. Well, we'll figure it out. So, cool, man. Again, I appreciate you very much for taking the time to talk with me tonight. And it was an awesome conversation.
Great, man. All right, we'll see you guys soon.
All righty. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Catch you all back here next week for a new episode.